Welcome. This is Mainline Executive Coaching ACT. We are here to help you as leaders and also leaders that are emerging, that want to become leaders. We're here to assist you in your journey of leadership and becoming your best as a leader and becoming that person that really makes a difference in other people's lives. You have a great opportunity, great potential to make a real difference in people's lives, not only in their careers, but also in their very lives themselves, their families, the people that they love, the people that they care about. You have that great opportunity, and that's what we talk about here. How do you bring that forth? How do you bring it out so that you are a catalyst? You are an example to others about how they can become their best as leaders and then assist others in their journey, in their careers, and in their lives. I'm Michael Bale. I'm here today with my partner, Rich Barrow. We've got an exciting guest here today. This is Camron Bodily. Camron has a very interesting philosophy. I'm going to ask him to give a little bit of his background. But his philosophy, we've often heard ROI, it has to do with business. What's your investment? What is your expectation about what you're doing here? What's the return on your investment? But he's taking it to a whole new level here. Taking it to now it's a really about a philosophy of life that will allow you, if you live it, if you're true to it, if you're true to yourself, that's what I understand, Cameron, what you're saying here. You're true to yourself. This is the way to real happiness, real joy, real fulfillment, and to real meaning in your life. So let's start here. Camron, give us a little bit of your background of what it was that you've done and how did you get to this ROI philosophy?
Yeah, well, I mean, the 10-second story, right, is I've been through a lot of things in my life. Like I've worked multiple jobs, even from a very young age. I've always been entrepreneurial minded, and that, I mean, from even I remember from the age of like 10, I used to do anything from raking leaves to learning basic magic tricks to whatever I could to, and being like even a clown or something like that to try to earn money wherever I could. Even lemonade stands, again, mechanics. I learned how to do a bunch of different things. But I had finished. So at 15, I actually was more into engineering. So I actually finished a degree for CAD engineering and auto mechanics as well at that time. And then I finished another one in marketing. And then I went into business entrepreneurship. And then I completely went off the wall and to a whole different end and did family marriage counseling for a little bit. Found that was really not a good fit for me. I just did not have the patience or the personality for that, or the filter for that matter. And then I've always done a number of different things, and so I didn't really. A lot of people ask, well, how did you do so much things? And I'm like, well, it's simple. If you basically wake up from 5 a.m. and until 2 a.m. the next day, just nonstop work or do all these different activities and throw yourself and have no social life, it's pretty easy to have some of this. But I just didn't have any of the social skills as a result of that, which is actually ended up being why after I had injuries and that from military and everything, where I forced myself into like, okay, well, I've reached like a plateau. I don't feel like I can achieve or I'm making much personal progress in my life. So what's the worst thing humanly possible to put myself in? Because in areas of pain is the greatest areas of growth. And that to me at the time was sales. So I did sales for a while just so I could actually learn how to communicate more effectively and I could understand that behavior a little bit better. Obviously, I had some of the psychology training, but I didn't really have any real world application training for that. And so I just could not understand how most decisions were based on emotion as opposed to logic, because I was very, very logically inclined. So needless to say, a lot of my experience in that and both the unpleasant upbringing to currently my family right now has sent me to a series of different just growth cycles that have changed my philosophy and allowed me to progress to where I am now. But as we were talking again earlier, the more I know I don't know. So I will always be the first to admit that I do not know everything. I just know what has consistently worked, because I'm able to filter a lot of the emotion out and focus purely on, okay, logically, this has consistently shown that it works, and this has consistently shown it doesn't. And I also kind of realized, because I've both, again, had money and been without money, I've been homeless, been wealthy, I've been everything in between, up and down. And so I know that it's not exactly a great ROI. Again, if you have to fight every day to get a gun barrel out of your mouth, it's an awful ROI. It doesn't matter how wealthy you are. It doesn't matter how many planes, cars, whatever. At the end of the day, none of that's coming with you to the grave, and nobody's going to remember you as anything else than another rich prick. And so I figured it's like there has to be more. At the end of the day, we all want fulfillment. We all want time. We all want something, and sometimes it's to be remembered. And that's part of the reason, again, I started this podcast. And it was almost somewhat of a selfish desire that I wanted my legacy to be more. I wanted something to be remembered by, that I made a positive impact on the world, that I was able to bring that, because I know how much I would have appreciated that instead of learning a lot of the lessons the hard way. How much I would have appreciated somebody giving me a reality check then, right?
You seem to be the kind of guy that people talk a lot about, that person who keeps failing forward. You seem to be very, very resilient in your attitude about life, very humble about being willing to take chances.
And my mother says it's called thick skulled.
Is that whatever it is, whatever works, right? Rich, tell us a little bit about how you crossed paths with Camron, and what caught your eye and said, let's have this guy on our podcast.
Well, it was interesting. Camron has been working on a project for me. We've been redoing a conference room and make it more up to speed, more user friendly, if you will. And just talking with Camron and finding out a little bit about his podcast and some of his on the Consult ROI. Here's the thing that really intrigues me. So I'm going to talk a little bit about ROI here for a minute, because it's something that really goes hand in hand with what we do on the executive coaching, and what Camron was talking about with your personal ROI. And if you look at the financial world, an ROI is really your profit realized minus the original or ongoing investment. The same thing goes for your personal ROI, personal development. You can't really, there's a lot of things you can put a dollar figure on, but in the end, what is your value to others around you? How do you, what are you going to do to better yourself? The investment it takes, the time, the grit, determination, all this it's going to take to get you to a certain level. And some of these things can take years. They can take time. They can take extra help, like with the executive coaching that we talk about, Maikel. And it all starts, honestly, with performing a very, even potentially brutal self-assessment on yourself. Where do you start at? What's your ground? What's your 0 point? And what investment are you willing to make in yourself? You can't really put a dollar figure on personal ROI. Perhaps if you're going to college, if you're going to school, you can put some kind of dollar figure on that. When you get out and you get a job, what kind of salary you're going to make. If that's your goal in life is to get that salary and make that money and do whatever. But really, it comes down to your satisfaction, your time, your ability to influence not only those around you, but even the organization you work for. Those are all part of your personal ROI. How do you impact and the legacy you leave for others? This is really what, and it's becoming more and more prevalent in organizations today, looking, what is your personal ROI? How are you really going to impact yourself? What kind of legacy are you going to leave based on the investment you put in yourself?
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead, Camron.
So with ROI, I found that, again, money is just an accelerator. It'll accelerate the good or the bad in your life, and it's a tool. I had a very flawed ideology when I was younger, which led me to not really caring and making a lot of foolish decisions in business, because I thought, again, money was the root of all evil, so thus it shouldn't be important. But at the end of the day, it is how you use it. And if you idolize it, then yes, because at the end of the day, if you are having your whole world to revolve around that, it's going to lead to a very empty life. That's a good principle, whether it's in personal, spiritual, anything like that. If you base it in anything monetary, just like a car, right? A car can get smashed and then your value's gone, right? Then everything that you put value in is destroyed. And the same thing with money. Money can be taken, money can do that. But if you understand that it's a tool to give you stuff that you want, the lifestyles, the time, the resources, the means, the influence, then that is a little bit more honest achievement or honest goal that you can consistently work towards. So it's the same saying that even perfectionism is kind of a mindset, and it's the continual pursuit towards improvement, not necessarily a destination. It's not a final destination at all. And so as we continually set ourselves into a state of always being willing to improve, always willing to move forward, then we are achieving always a positive ROI. But what happens when you take something good, whether it's a car, whether it's money or whatever else, and we just leave it outside and don't use it? We don't utilize it or anything else. We just let it sit there and rot, right?
Let me ask you, that's an interesting concept, Cameron. Let me ask you this. You've done a lot of things. We've talked about a lot of things that you have done, military, built businesses, from the ground up, helped others succeed. And you just mentioned you were going to leaving that outside. How have you capitalized on those skills and talents that you've gained throughout all your successes to really build a personal ROI and help build a legacy for not only for yourself, but for those around you? Because here's the thing: anytime you invest in yourself and you're doing some things for other people, I mean, you better be returning a substantial multiple on your investment on a consistent basis. And that needs to be not only for personal, but for financial as well. So how do you do that? What's your secret?
So the reality is most of us have a fairly unique skill set. Mine is, as you touched on, is persistence, resilience, and also being able to filter out a lot of emotion and looking at just the logical decisions to make very quick and calculated decisions. So it allows me to look at all the pros and cons of something within seconds and immediately come up with a result. And that was actually condemned by a lot, including my parents and teachers and all sorts of stuff growing up. And so that was always a skill set that, you kind of hid away, right? And so it became the skill that just sat out there and rotted, for say, or wasn't as utilized as it was because it was kind of the skeleton in the closet. However, the reality is every single thing, every single quirk in your person can be for good or bad. I understand that my strengths are mostly on logistics, management, like project management, technical systems, very instantaneous decisions, and that. I'm not necessarily as great of a people person. So I know my shortfalls, and I know where I need to hire to get people that can fulfill those voids and focus on what I execute best on. So reality is you are always continually focusing on what we feel is easy for ourselves, that might be harder for other people, because like a lot of people will see, like they might find organization. Like for me, organization is very actually hard, even though I'm very logical. I have to tear out an entire room, clear it completely out, start from bare scratch, and then put one thing at a time. And if something throws that order out, or if I add something new, I have to redo it all again. That's like how OCD I am in some things, which is, again, a crutch. But there is people out there that have that skill set that I will hire intentionally to do that, because it is a lot easier for them to think for more of a rapid expansion. And and I basically just give them the input saying, hey, this is what I need, this is where I need it to get to. And then they're able to facilitate that goal or ambition, right? And so it's not only working with those people, but being honest with yourself and being able to utilize the skills that you were given with yourself. So I know that's kind of a long-winded answer, but that's the reality, is find something that you're good at that you may find is really easy and natural for you, and just figure out how you can utilize that for a positive, and figure out how to best approach that. So yeah, at the end of the day, there's a lot of different things that go into it. I mean, you could go into a whole month lesson just in that aspect, but it just comes down to finding even the simple things that we have. And that when I was homeless, for example, I didn't really have much at my disposal, nothing monetarily, nothing to that. I did have a skill set that I was always willing to learn. And my skill set really at that time, the only thing I had was the ability to throw myself into any situation and figure out the problem. So it was the problem solving skills, right? So I would go into situations like, hey, do you have any work? Can you do anything else? And they're like, yeah, can you do this? And I would say without a fail, like, yes, I can do that. And I would figure it out, and I would actually do it very, very well. And so they're like, yeah, can you do this? Well, yes, I can. And I did that very, very well. And I kept moving up and up. And eventually that's actually what led to a lot of my Fortune 500 contracts. I started at the bottom, and that showed and executed on that skill set exceptionally well, built the skill set I already had some tech skills in tech, but then I was able to build those relationships with executives that then migrated between those Fortune 500 and build a lot of contracts that made me millions at the end of the day. So that really helps me, but it's not something that's unfeasible for you guys. It's just building that relationships and then executing well upon that, and then following through. If you mess up, great, like take accountability and fix it.
That sounds great. You talk a lot about being this very logical guy. You are very entrepreneurial in your approach about life. I would say that's very, very true about you. High risk, ready to just jump in and, learn on your own, trial and error kind of stuff. Same time, there's something that I hear thematically in your life is about people. You say maybe you don't have the social skills or you didn't have in the past, but there is something about that you see as very valuable in having the right people in your life. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Your network is your net worth. I know that's saying is kind of overused, but the reality is if you can execute again and build those relationships, like I didn't again have the social things to be in the good old boys golf club. In fact, people would only invite me along with golf if they wanted a comedy show. But I just was. I knew that I could do a job very well, execute on it, show them that I was, and I didn't really talk much. I didn't really, which is funny for a lot of people that know me now, but when I work in that, and I just focus and I completely isolate in that, and that's what they could see, and that's what they valued. And especially when you are talking with bigger corporations, they don't really care necessarily about your credentials per se. They care about what you can provide for them. And if you can show very clear driven ROI, and especially the numbers make sense, then it's a no-brainer decision, right? And that's actually, I would actually challenge some of the decision makers whenever I closed a project. If they doubted me, and for a long time, I actually pretended to be just one of the technical IT people for my company. I had never actually advertised I was the owner, because if everybody found out I was the owner, they would immediately discredit me because my age and like kick me out the door. But if I just showed them like, hey, I'm one of the technical engineers, let me just show you what I can do. And if it makes sense, great. If it doesn't, we'll shake hands, part as friends. And that was my saying in almost every single thing. And almost every single time, I make sure that I blew their socks off. Right.
That's outstanding. I mean, performance, connection, your skill base, all those kinds of things, those really served you well. Those are a lot of the things that came out of your ROI investment. That's great stuff. That's great stuff for leaders, great stuff for entrepreneurs, great stuff for anybody. Exactly. Let's wrap it up. We got to have you come back again, Camron. You're a very interesting and exciting fellow to talk with and to talk to, and just to listen, just to hear your kind of natural, everyday, common man philosophy about life. It's powerful stuff. Rich, take us out. Let's wrap this up. Thank you so much.
All righty, Camron, thank you very much. I've been putting on here Consult ROI, that's your podcast, and connect.
You'll notice that there hasn't been posts for a little bit. I've been slacking. There's about 10 in the process of being published, but luckily I do have my office manager that is starting to help me get that get in the works.
We all can't wait to see him.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to get a hold of Maikel and myself, Executive Leaders Act, ILEC.com, and go to our webpage, look us up. Let's talk about these things. Let's talk about your personal ROI. Let's talk about how you invest in yourself and the benefits of doing that, and how you can feel down the road, from your personal investments. So once again, we come to the end of another episode of Mainline Executive Coaching ACT, and we've got some other great episodes coming up very soon. So, Maikel, who we shouting out to tonight?
There's some people in Alabama. I want to just say thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, thanks for being part of our community here. So thank you, Alabama.
Alabama, yes, thank you very much. So once again, everybody, take care of each other, and we'll see you again soon. Be safe.
All the best.